Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is James Thomson, former Amazon executive turned e-commerce consultant, to discuss the changing e-commerce landscape and what consumers should prepare for as we head into the historically busiest shopping quarter. James, it's great to see you. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks for having me, Jill.
And many of the trends we see in e-commerce now are a result of COVID-19 accelerating them forward. What was in place prior to the pandemic, and what do you think is here to stay?
Companies were definitely starting to try out e-commerce. I'm talking about retailers setting up their own websites, trying to figure out how to make that work. We saw some precarious situations happen where retailers would set up a website business that was very different than the in-store retail business. And some of the challenges of having two very distinct sites that don't really talk to each other, some of those problems became very apparent during COVID. But the good news is that many retailers already had online shopping sites. They just weren't putting a lot of focus into it. When COVID kicked in March and consumers couldn't go into the physical stores, now we had a new problem emerge where in many of these retailers, there was a separate e-commerce team that didn't talk to the physical brick and mortar team. And so you ended up with an awful lot of inventory sitting in physical stores that wasn't otherwise available for the brick and mortar side of the house. The good news about brick and mortar is, yes, consumers can come in and they can experience the actual products, especially if you're dealing with apparel where trying the products on, feeling the material, it's all good stuff. Unfortunately, when you get to an e-commerce situation, if you don't have enough of the right inventory, consumers are going to move quickly to go find some alternative. And so what happened when we saw COVID kick in is a lot of these retailers had inventory, it just wasn't available for e-commerce. And when spikes in demand became very apparent for e-commerce, gosh, where's the inventory going to come from? Am I literally going down to the store and figuring out what's available? Some of the retailers we were working with didn't even have good inventory to figure out where the inventory was sitting in physical stores and how they could essentially borrow it and move it over to the e-commerce side of the house.
So, James, prior to COVID-19, retailers and malls were transitioning to an experiential destination place to go, not just shopping or food. For example, I live in New Jersey, and on Route 3 by MetLife Stadium, we have the Mall of Dreams, which was which was just opening. When you drive by it, you can see the indoor water park. It was basically more experience than it was actual retail, right? So, and those are the owners of Mall of America, so people have been there and familiar with what that experiential feel is like. Do you think that will come back at some point?
There's a very big distinction between shopping and buying. And I think that there will always be a need for shopping where consumers can go in and they can try things on, they can look at things and compare them visually. It doesn't mean they're actually going to make the purchase in the store. And so as I think about how retailers view the physical presence they have and how that meshes with the online presence they have, rather than saying we're going to have a physical presence and then we're going to have an online presence, they have to create one experience for consumers. I like to use the example of the Lego brand. Lego has done a phenomenal job of creating a seamless experience. It doesn't matter whether you buy something online or offline. It's the same products. It's the same experience. You can buy in one channel. You can return in another channel. The brand doesn't really care where it is you ultimately make the purchase. What they care about is, do you get consistent information, consistent pricing, consistent availability of product? Those are the kinds of things that retailers have to be thinking about now, as consumers have been programmed to think, wait a minute, online might actually be a better experience for certain aspects of my purchase behavior. And so the question around, are we going to go back to a mall? We're going to go back to a mall, but it's going to be to accomplish different types of things. It's going to be more about the front end of the purchase behavior, learning about the product, trying on the product, comparing products, one brand to another, one retailer to another, but the actual purchase may happen online. And retailers have to figure out how to build their model, their business model, so that they can support a situation where consumers may buy in one place and try on in another place. Today, too many retailers have this weird two business model structure where different parts of the retailer are essentially competing against each other. You can't think that way. It has to be one experience for the consumer, one experience inside the retailer, inside the brand, where it's seamless for consumers, and they don't get penalized for choosing to try product in a store and buying it online. Today, that's very common to be penalized. oh, if you buy it online, sorry, you can't return it in the store. Or, sorry, it's not available in the store, but we have no idea where it's available, which, well, gosh, it's actually available online, but the store doesn't know that. Consumers want
Yeah.
a single experience. So I think that's going to be the big shift towards retailers that are able to come back from this situation. If I'm the owner of a mall, I need to continue to focus on creating a gathering place, and a mall is definitely a gathering place. So how do I get people to spend money on things that may not necessarily be buying products that are in the physical stores? The experiences you talked about with the water park or the amusement rides or what have you, the restaurants, those are all ways to get consumers to spend time at the mall, spending money, but it's not necessarily buying your favorite sweater.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And so I live by Short Hills, and the Short Hills Mall has a Tesla store in there, which has to be the
Yep.
coolest store in
Yep.
the entire mall. And that's that model. You go in, you experience, you get to sit in it, touch it, ask um, the associates in the store what it's all about, and then you go and you know order it online. So it's interesting just to see how forward thinking Tesla was in that respect as well. But let's talk about the near term, right? So retailers have been pushing back holiday for years now, but like all things in 2020, they've made an unprecedented move to start in early October as a result of Amazon Prime Day.
Mhm.
Will that be harmful or helpful to retailers? And is there any benefit to the consumer? How do we know when the deals are the best?
The deals are great all the time, aren't they? The main issue we all face right now is last mile shipping. Assume that most consumers are going to be doing the majority of their buying online. Everybody's buying products that needs to be delivered by UPS, FedEx, USPS. And when you look at how quickly those three channels have grown this year, they haven't grown anywhere near enough to support this massive increase in online demand that's going to happen here in late November, December. And so what's going to happen is consumers are going to go online, they're going to buy products, and the closer they get to December 25th, the less likely their products are going to arrive on time. And so by spreading out the sales and encouraging consumers to spend money earlier, that actually helps to spread out the shipping requirements. And so consumers should be thinking about buying sooner. And quite frankly, I wouldn't imagine doing shopping in the middle 2 weeks of December, because the likelihood that you're going to get your products on time, the likelihood is going to be lower than ever before. One important exception: Amazon does 2/3 of its own last mile delivery here in the United States. They own their own logistics. And so I think what's going to happen is Amazon is going to be the go-to place for last minute purchases, because they're going to be able to guarantee the delivery of products that are placed on orders that are placed, let's say after December 8th or 10th or something like that. So for a traditional retailer or vertically integrated brand that has a retail store, those companies are going to have a tough time having to tell consumers, listen, the cutoff date for getting stuff on time is December 15th, December 16th. Quite frankly, UPS, FedEx, and USPS, they're already struggling. As of mid-October, we were seeing carriers struggling to make the pickups that they were allowing retailers and online retailers to make. So if the trailers are not showing up on time, if the orders are not being picked up at the warehouses on time, and that's in mid-October, that doesn't bode well for a situation where demand's going to be 2 or 3 times higher when we get to mid-December.
See, James, and I'm really glad that you brought that up because I learned something new when I first started covering this, later in September, early October. My first thought was retailers have to be competitive with Amazon, and that's why they're doing that. But great lesson learned for the consumer because I'm the one that goes shopping on the 23rd and 24th. So that's a
Yeah.
good lesson learned for me. So thank you for the heads up on that. But I really think the takeaway with this is the shipping and logistics, as you had said. And actually, my last question, and you answered that already, was going to be, did we learn anything from the pandemic and can anything be applied? But it sounds like there's just so much volume that regardless of lessons learned, it's a physical issue.
As a retailer who's now doing significant volume online, the big long-term question for these retailers is, what are you going to do to make sure that you can control that experience from the time the customer places the order to the time the customer receives the order? And right now, as I said, UPS, FedEx, USPS, these are the three primary ways to get those boxes to consumers. And so where are the options going to come from? Where are the alternatives going to come from? Amazon's taken most of that in-house. If I'm a Brooks Brothers or I'm a department store that's trying to get orders out the door, whether it's using Instacart, whether it's using some sort of local delivery capability. These are options that need to be explored. And unfortunately, right now, here we are in late October, it's a little too late to be working through those issues. And there are going to be a lot of disappointed consumers who discover that their products simply don't arrive on time. But it's a good learning for the future, which is consumers are more likely to be buying online. And so all retailers need to be thinking about what are they going to do to not only provide a better experience on their websites, but what are they going to do to make sure that they've got the right partnerships with the right carriers to get products to customers on time.
One more question. I keep throwing these questions out there because you're bringing
Sure.
some excellent points
Sure.
up. So when you think about BOPIC, right, buy online, pick up in store, I wonder if that's going
Mm-hmm.
to pick up as a result, because for those last minute shoppers such as myself,
Yep.
guilty as charged, that's going to be, that's certainly going to have to pick up. There's going to be last minute items you're going to have to get. So BOPIC should see a bump, right?
Well, it already saw a big bump for stores like Target and Walmart. And, I would expect that other retailers who haven't yet explored that are going to be forced to say, listen, we can't let you buy it online, but if you want to place an order and you want to come down to the store, sure, we'll find a way to get it into your car. That's not a very scalable situation, though. There's only so many people who are going to line up for so long to wait to have a box put in their car. And so, quite frankly, this is a stopgap to have that option in place if you don't already have it as a retailer.
All right, James, awesome insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks.
Thanks for having me, Jill.
You got it. And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.